Joining us now live with more on this is the interim leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, John Fraser. Mr. Fraser, thanks so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
What was your reaction when you heard the RCMP come out and say, yes, we are going to look into this?
Look, it's good news for Ontarians that we'll be able to get to the bottom of this $8.3 billion backroom deal. So it's a good day for them. It's a bad day, a very bad day for any government or any premier when the RCMP launches a criminal investigation into the way that you're doing business. So that's kind of my first take on it. It's very clear that all roads lead to the premier's office in this scandal. If you take a look at, we've had 2 cabinet ministers resign, one of the premier's senior staff in his office having to resign. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So I welcome this investigation.
It's going to be a lengthy one as well. It'll take time for the RCMP and investigators to actually sift through all of the documents to determine if anything criminal in nature actually happened. The Premier, Mr. Fraser, has maintained he didn't know, he wasn't involved in the decision making. He didn't give anyone tips when it comes to developers that were privy to these lands. What should happen to the Premier? Should the RCMP actually decide it will be laying criminal charges?
Well, that's up to the RCMP. As I said earlier, all roads lead to the premier's office in this scandal. There's no way that a rookie chief of staff, Ryan Amato, was the mastermind behind this. And we've seen 2 cabinet ministers resign, a senior staffer in the premier's office. So, we need to get to the bottom of this, how, like a handful of the premier's friends, by his own admission, and fundraisers almost got an $8.3 billion payday because they had the advantage over all the rest of Ontarians.
Why isn't it good enough that the Premier and his government have now recanted on that plan, saying they won't be giving out Greenbelt land? They have cleaned house when it comes to Housing Minister Steve Clark, his Chief of Staff that you mentioned. A new Housing Minister is now in charge. So why isn't that good enough? And the Premier also saying, hey, look, I'm sorry, we made a mistake.
Well, I think what Ontarians are really upset about is, why is it that a small handful of wealthy, well-connected insiders were given a great advantage? We're given inside information. We're allowed to pass brown envelopes. And we have to look at what, the Integrity Commissioner said in his report, is that this whole thing was marred by brown envelopes and deception. So there's a lot of smoke here. So I think that, there's a lot for the RCMP to investigate. I think it's fair for them to be investigating. I know that they'll do a good job. And look, the last thing I'd say about that is the Greenbelt's just the tip of the iceberg. We have issues around urban boundaries and ministerial zoning orders where decisions were made to advantage, again, well-connected insiders. So this is not going to go away for a long time.
We've seen the leader of the Greens calling for a public inquiry. Do you think it's worthwhile, Mr. Fraser? And what do you think that would achieve?
I think we will end up having one at some point. Now that we have a criminal investigation going on by the RCMP, I think that's going to take precedence. And then once everything, the air is cleared there, we're going to have to figure out, well, how did this actually happen? And what are the things that we can do to ensure that this kind of thing never happens again? It's not just good enough to say, I'm going to give back the land. I made a big mistake. The problem here was a small group of well-connected insiders were set to make an $8.3 billion payday.
Ontario's interim leader of the Liberals, Mr. Fraser, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Beatrice. Have a good day.